How do you seize a tanker protected by a Russian nuclear submarine without starting World War III? On January 7, 2026, the U.S. found the answer. The target was the Marinera, a shadow fleet vessel carrying Venezuelan oil, hiding behind a freshly painted Russian flag and an attack sub-escort. Moscow tried to block the U.S. Coast Guard, but American, British, and European air power changed the game. These advanced P-8 Poseidon and Seahawk helicopters started dropping a net of sonobuoys from the sky, clearing the path for the cutter Monroe to seize the ship. Here's how it happened. On Wednesday, January 7, 2026 morning in the North Atlantic, a geopolitical chess game turned into a kinetic military operation. The United States, enforcing a strict blockade on Venezuelan oil Moscow had explicitly placed under its protection. This is part one on what is a shadow fleet. The operation was the climax of a weeks-long standoff rooted in the U.S. government's aggressive new, complete blockade of Venezuela. The target is this vessel, originally the Bella 1, a rusting 15-year-old tanker identified by U.S. intelligence as part of the Shadow Fleet, a network of vessels used by Russia, Iran, and Venezuela to transport illicit oil and bypass sanctions. But how is Russia involved? In December 2025, the Bella 1 attempted to run from the U.S. blockade near the Venezuelan coast to load crude oil. When intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard in the Caribbean, the captain refused to stop, shut off the ship's transponder, going dark, and fled into the open Atlantic, initiating a 4,000-mile pursuit. What tactics and deception did they follow? During its flight across the Atlantic, the crew frantically attempted to change the ship's lethal identity to make it untouchable. They repainted the hull, renaming the ship the Marinera, and raised the Russian flag. Moscow simultaneously added the ship to its official registry, asserting that any attack on the vessel was an attack on the Russian Federation. As the tanker steamed toward the strategic gap between Iceland and the United Kingdom, Russia dramatically escalated the stakes. Intelligence confirmed that Moscow had dispatched an attack submarine, likely a formidable Yasin or Akula class, with explicit orders to escort and safeguard the vessel. This was a calculated denial of area threat. By lurking silently beneath the waves, Russia hoped to force a retreat from the U.S. Coast Guard cutter, which lacked the heavy weaponry to engage a submarine. To complicate matters further, Russian warships were reported in the vicinity, creating a defensive screen that forced American commanders to proceed with extreme caution, knowing that one wrong move could spark an accidental naval war. Despite the silent threat lurking below, U.S., British, and European command gave the green light to seize the vessel. Their strategy was bold: neutralize the Russian submarine not with torpedoes, but with overwhelming air superiority. Leading the surface chase was the U.S. Monroe, a Legend-class cutter that had stalked the Marinera for weeks through brutal Atlantic swells. But before the Monroe could make its move, the sky had to be secured. U.S. and British P-8 Poseidons swarmed the sector, dropping a net of sonobuoys to track the Russian sub's every movement, while KC-135 Stratotankers kept the surveillance dragnet aloft 24/7. The British Royal Air Force joined the hunt, deploying Revit joint aircraft to strip Moscow's communications bare. At dawn on January 7th, the trap snapped shut. The P-8s effectively boxed out the submarine, signaling that any aggression would guarantee its own destruction. With the underwater threat pinned down, the Monroe closed the distance. The Atlantic seas were too violent for small boats, so the operators went vertical. In a precision assault, special operations teams fast-roped from hovering helicopters directly onto the tanker's deck. Within minutes, they secured the bridge, cut the engines, and raised the American flag. The Marinera was theirs. But to truly understand the power of these Seahawk helicopters and the strategy driving the Coast Guard, we have to turn our eyes to the United States military. We'll also look at how amphibious warships, destroyers, and MQ-9 Reaper drones operate in a coordinated manner to create an oil and drugs blockade near Venezuela. The warships and destroyers act as command centers and launching platforms, deploying helicopters and surface-to-surface missiles for direct attacks. Meanwhile, MQ-9 Reaper drones provide continuous aerial surveillance and real-time intelligence, using advanced sensors to locate and track targets with great precision. These drones can also carry and launch precision-guided missiles to strike vessels. This integrated approach enables rapid detection, tracking, and multi-directional strikes, combining the firepower and mobility of ships and helicopters with the extended reach and endurance of drones. Together, they effectively intercept and block Venezuela oil vessels and drug boats. Now let's take a closer look at the strategy and basic process of how MH-60 Seahawk helicopters are launched from amphibious warships. The operation begins in the Amphibious Ships Command Center, where intelligence about suspicious vessel activity is gathered and analyzed. Once a potential target is identified, preparations for launch begin. The MH-60 Seahawk takes off vertically or with a short rolling start from the ship's flight deck. Its folding rotor blades and compact design allow it to operate efficiently in the limited space available on the ship. As the helicopter quickly climbs to an operational altitude and moves toward the area of interest, it begins its hunt for targets. But how does it hunt its target search and acquisition? Using advanced onboard radar, electro-optical and infrared sensors, and communication links with the ship and other reconnaissance platforms, the Seahawk searches the waters for fast-moving vessels believed to be involved in narcotics trafficking. It integrates sensor data with real-time intelligence provided by drones or other assets to enhance target acquisition. After locating the narco-terrorist boat, the MH-60 Seahawk strikes with precision and coordination. It carries AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, which are advanced air-to-surface weapons designed to destroy or severely disable hostile vessels from a safe distance. Let's take a look at how these are used to hunt down fast attack boats. In addition to missiles, the Seahawk is armed with heavy machine guns, including the powerful .50 caliber Gauss-16 minigun mounted on either side of the cabin door. These guns provide sustained suppressive fire that is highly effective at disabling smaller boats, which might evade missile strikes or in situations where missile use is not feasible. The machine guns also deliver defensive fire to protect the helicopter, enabling continuous pressure on hostile vessels during interdiction operations. Together, these weapons allow the MH-60 Seahawk to carry out swift and accurate strikes on narco-terrorist boats. Whether engaging targets with Hellfire missiles from long range or using precision machine gun fire at closer quarters, the Seahawk demonstrates unmatched versatility and dominance over maritime threats and interdiction missions. But why use a Seahawk helicopter when you have a long-endurance drone? The MH-60 Seahawk helicopter holds a significant advantage in maritime interdiction missions due to its advanced anti-submarine warfare capabilities, which MQ-9 Reaper drones lack. Here is a detailed comparison highlighting these advantages. MH-60 Seahawk's advantage in anti-submarine warfare. The Seahawk is equipped with a dipping sonar system and can deploy sonar buoys to detect and track submarines underwater. Upon detection, the helicopter can launch a torpedo at the target. Once launched, the torpedo, equipped with its own sonar system, will actively track and pursue the submarine until it successfully neutralizes the threat. But how do these U.S. naval and aerial surveillance track the suspected drug boat for several weeks as part of an intensified anti-narcotics campaign in the southern Caribbean? This surveillance effort combined multi-source intelligence with persistent drone monitoring to identify maritime activities linked to narco-terrorists. The vessel under observation was a 4-engine speedboat, a type specially designed for high-velocity trafficking operations. Such boats typically travel at speeds ranging from 40 to 60 knots, which is approximately 46 to 69 miles per hour. This is around 74 to 111 kilometers per hour when traversing open water. Once the boat crossed from Venezuelan territorial waters into international waters, U.S. authorities positively identified it as part of a narco-trafficker's operated smuggling mission, believed to be managed by the notorious Venezuelan criminal organization Tren de Aragua. Execution of the strike. Let us now examine how the strike was executed in detail. The MQ-9 Reaper drone responsible for the operation was most likely deployed from an amphibious naval task force operating in the southern Caribbean region. This task force included warships and Marines engaged in both exercises and active missions, from which MQ-9 drones routinely conduct surveillance and precision strike activities. These platforms provide the necessary launch and command capabilities for such unmanned aerial vehicles. The MQ-9 Reaper, an unmanned remotely piloted aircraft, tracked the high-speed speedboat from above, continuously transmitting high-definition video and sensor data back to command centers and strike coordinators on the ground or aboard naval vessels. The MQ-9 has a maximum operational ceiling of up to 50,000 feet and can loiter in the target area for up to 24 hours, affording it the endurance required to maintain precise real-time tracking of fast-moving maritime targets. After positive identification and receiving presidential authorization, The drone executed the strike by closing in on the boat. It launched a single AGM-114 Hellfire missile, a highly precise air-to-surface weapon capable of tracking and hitting fast and maneuvering targets with lethal accuracy. But how did this small missile could successfully track and hit the speedboat? Let's take a look at Hellfire missile tracking and guidance. The AGM-114 Hellfire missile is a precision weapon guided either by semi-active laser or millimeter wave radar. This means it can accurately lock onto and follow targets, even ones moving quickly on water, like a speedboat. The MQ-9 Reaper drone uses advanced onboard sensors and targeting pods to continuously track the boat, sending real-time information to the missile after it has been launched. The drone's sophisticated systems can calculate the boat's speed, direction, and maneuvers, allowing the missile's guidance to predict where the boat will be and adjust its flight path to hit the target. Speed and maneuverability matching. Hellfire missiles travel at speeds greater than Mach 1, over 760 miles per hour, 1,225 kilometers per hour, which far outpaces the speed of the boat. This allows the missile to quickly close the distance and make fine adjustments during its flight to strike a moving target. The missile's guidance system is designed to compensate for evasive maneuvers by tracking the reflected laser or radar signals bouncing off the boat. It continuously adjusts for changes in direction and speed as it hones in on the target. During the final moments, the missile locks onto the boat's heat or laser signature, greatly increasing the likelihood of a precise, successful hit even though the boat is moving fast across the water. Combined drone and missile capability. The MQ-9 Reaper's ability to maintain constant visual and sensor tracking of the boat provides the missile with necessary mid-course updates to ensure highly precise targeting. This powerful combination of persistent drone surveillance, the missile's incredible speed, and active guidance makes striking fast-moving maritime targets, like the Venezuelan speedboat traveling nearly 70 miles per hour, possible and highly effective. Paired with the MQ-9 Reaper drone's continuous real-time tracking, enable the missile to accurately follow, anticipate, and destroy a fast-moving boat traveling at speeds up to 69 miles per hour. We also made a deep dive into the sea, air, and land components of the nuclear triad, so subscribe for more videos to not miss a beat.